Welcome to the Wretched Wrench. Today I bring you a service disc from 1982 Ford Cars and Light Trucks. Something a little different. I hope you enjoy it. Please hit the like button, subscribe, leave me a comment. Thanks for watching.
Microprocessors. You've experienced them in cars. Now, you're about to experience them in training with a laser video disc. A laser beam reads instructions on the video disc and transmits them to the microprocessor in the player. You will control what you see and hear as the laser beam selects the information stored on the disc by simply pressing the numbered buttons. Here is your first choice: the menu of the 6 major topics on this 1982 Car and Light Truck Service Features video disc. You're on your own. Let's take a quick look at some new features. An innovative two-way tailgate for Granada and Cougar. The Trip Minder, an onboard computer for LTDs, Marquis, XR7s, and Thunderbirds. A new twin I-beam axle with camber adjustment sleeves and new pivot bushings. The C5, a new transmission with a converter that can lock up in all gears, increasing fuel efficiency. The 5-liter V8 returns with faster acceleration for the Mustang Capri. An innovative new V6 engine with 30 horsepower per liter. And an all-new Lincoln Continental, a far cry from the original of 1941, with a V6 now instead of the original V12, yet effectively delivering as much horsepower. A boulevard ride through an innovative suspension system that's an industry first. Plus self-sealing steel-belted radials and 4-wheel disc brakes are standard. Inside, there's a new electronic instrument cluster and a new improved electronic message center. Hi, I'm Phil Marquis, and we're here today at this television studio to share with you the 1982 service features for cars and light trucks. With us is Nick Losurdo, the national CTP winner. Nick is from Long Island, New York, where he works for Philbor Motors, and he flew in yesterday just to be with us for this presentation. Let's go over and meet him.
I think you're ready.
Thanks, Sue.
Hi, Nick. Welcome to Dearborn.
Hi, Phil. It's great to be here.
Nick, you're the 1980 Certified Training Program national winner. I know that there are thousands of service technicians all across the country who compete for this honor every year, but tell me something. Did you ever think that you were going to win?
I was hoping just to win the district prize. So you can imagine what happens when I found out I won the national prize and the trip to the Bahamas.
How did you prepare for the exam, Nick?
Well, I read the CTP books, service highlight books, and the shop manuals. They help me tackle a lot of other jobs some other guys wouldn't touch.
What do you mean? Could you give me an example?
Well, recently I had a message center problem, and some other mechanics tried to work on it. And with the help of the book and my common sense, I was able to fix the job. It was important to us. It was a fleet account, and we were trying to land it.
Did you land it?
Yes, we did.
Congratulations, and thanks, Nick. Throughout this program, Nick and I will be sharing with you the various service features on the new 1982 cars and trucks. Now, we suggest you start with number 2 on the new engines. So let's return to the menu, where the choice is up to you. In engines, the big news is the 3.8-liter, 112 horsepower V6. Standard on the Continental, it's also available on the Thunderbird XR7 and Granada Cougar. It has the power of a small V8 with the weight of a 4-cylinder. In fact, only 4 pounds more than our 2.3 4-cylinder. The V6 has exceptionally smooth operation due to equal interval firing. Each piston has its own crank pin on the offset crankshaft, permitting it to be fired at the optimum point. Next, the new engine mapping computer simulation was used to permit designers to select ideal calibrations. Result? Except in California, the V6 does not need electronic engine control or a knock sensor. It's all new, yet servicing is easy. It's designed and built similar to the 5-liter V8. In fact, the V6 is so similar to the 5-liter V8 that it only takes 3 new special tools: an adapter and cap screws for crankshaft damper removal, another adapter installer for crankshaft front cover seal and damper installation, and a tappet collapser for bleeding the hydraulic lifters.
Having so few new things to learn helps a lot, because we're still trying to learn about the S-Chord engine, and there's the overdrive, and the automatic transaxle, and the manual transaxle. So it's nice to see a new product come out that's really not that different.
The one big difference is in the front. The oil pump, the water pump, the fuel pump, and the distributor are all together in this assembly. The distributor itself is new, but familiar. It's a V8 body with a 6-cylinder armature, rotor, adapter, and cap. Service procedures for the distributor itself are the same as in the past, but the distributor goes through the front cover and engages the oil pump drive shaft.
The engine looks like such a familiar friend, you're liable to overlook things like that distributor. If you try to beat the job by not removing the distributor, you're going to run into trouble trying to pull out that front cover. On reassembly, be sure to install the new camshaft end plate spring and button.
Also new on the V6 are these plastic rocker arm covers. They're lightweight and strong.
These intake manifolds are aluminum, so we'll have to be careful when torquing them. You have to be especially careful with these aluminum heads. You must replace the bolts with new ones and then torque them in the right sequence to the correct specs. You've got to follow the book. It's really important.
On this engine, silicone rubber sealer is used instead of gaskets in all but 3 places: the intake manifold, the head, and the front cover. There's a specified bead size for each use. Be sure to check specifications.
And the book tells you how to clean these surfaces, so the silicone will seal. The most important thing to remember is you have to join some of the surfaces within 5 minutes after you put the bead on.
Well, that's the V6, the big news in engines. Other engines have recalibrations and other changes to boost performance that don't affect basic service procedures. For instance, the improved performance of the 5-liter results from a combination of better breathing and reduced accessories drag. The better breathing performance is achieved through a special camshaft with a higher lift and longer duration of open time, a larger carburetor, the 2 Venturi 356 SCFM, a low-resistance air cleaner with dual inlets, and a sporty tuned exhaust system with 2.5-inch instead of 2-inch pipes. The reduced accessory drag on the 5-liter engine comes from the use of the clutch-driven fan that disengages when the vehicle speed provides sufficient airflow, and a new air conditioning cutoff switch. The switch disengages the compressor at wide-open throttle. Tests show that this allows a significant improvement in acceleration. The newest thing in ignition systems is on the 1.6 with automatic transaxle. There's a new type of ignition module which is attached right to the distributor. It's the TFI, thick film integrated. It has a new E-core coil that uses epoxy instead of oil as a dielectric. It is not interchangeable with other coils.
The next thing we've got is a new ignition tester. It's about time. I've seen so many aftermarket testers. Everybody and their brother came out with something and said theirs was the answer. And we hooked them up and the lights worked, but they didn't tell you what was wrong with the car. It's good to see Ford's come up with something, especially for the primary system. And it has a memory to help diagnose intermittent problems. That's going to work out really nice. And it can be used on all Ford engines.
All of this and more is covered in the 1982 Engine, Emissions, and Related Systems book.
That related means ignition and carburation. Spending time with this book can pay off. For now, why not try the self-test?
The big item in transmissions is the new C5, which is replacing the C4 but will not require much relearning to service it. It's basically the C4, with a new clutched converter that transmits torque mechanically as well as hydraulically.
They came out with a new unit in a familiar case, so a fellow only has a few new things to learn.
This cutaway shows how lockup occurs automatically when the converter clutch shoes are centrifugally forced against the converter cover. As the force is centrifugal, clutch lockup depends on rotational speed and can occur in all gears. The mechanical connection begins as the shoes start to rub the cover. In addition, there are design revisions for new shift dynamics. 2 new shift timing valves have been added. They're in a timing body that's been added to the main control body. The cutback valve has been moved there too. To smooth out transmission engagement at idle, there are 2 clutch changes. The forward clutch now has a wave snap ring. You really have to press on the clutch pack when checking clearance. The reverse high clutch has a disc spring added to the clutch pack. The service point here is that to check clearance, the buildup is different than for a normal assembly. There's only one new tool needed, and that's a piston lip seal installer for the reverse high clutch, but the forward clutch no longer needs one. A really critical point with this new converter is a new test for possible interference from the converter clutch. If it is out of tolerance on the interference test, do not install that converter. The other point to watch is that they've changed the pitch on the intermediate band adjusting screw threads. You must back off the adjusting screw 4 1/4 turns. That's more than on the C4. If you don't, you'll burn out the band.
This is the most important new thing we have to remember because it's not obvious. You can't see that the pitch on the threads is different than a C4.
Now a couple of final points on C5 service. The converter relief valve is now in the valve body instead of in the pump assembly as in the C4. That means that C4 and C5 pump assemblies are not interchangeable. Next, the oil pan screen now can be removed and cleaned without disassembling the valve body. Finally, the C5 control body now has only 2 bolted end plates. The rest of the valves are held by clip keepers. You'll need the flip chart for their location. Now here is a spring compressor tool that's handy when dropping keepers in place. And there's a page in the back of the shop manual that tells you how to make one for yourself. As a reference for the C5, besides the flip chart, there's the C5 diagnosis book and the diagnosis wheel. The new band adjustment is in the diagnosis book and in the flip chart. That's the key point to remember. Now, check yourself out on the other points with the self-test. One change in air conditioning was mentioned as an improvement to the engine which reduced accessory drag. Use of a wide-open throttle cutoff switch for the air conditioning compressor. There are several other changes in air conditioning. This year, the new Nippon Denso compressor is being used on the Escort Lynx as well as on the EXP LN7, and it requires the special package of 5 tools released in late '81. Next, except for the Econoline, the fixed orifice system is used on all cars and light trucks. On most cars, the orifice tube now is located in the condenser outlet line at the condenser rather than at the evaporator inlet. There are new clutch cycling pressure switches. The metal-based ones must be torqued, but the plastic ones are finger-tight only. For all ATC units, the electro-vacuum relay is replaced by a blower lockout switch. It's located on the heater core inlet hose and keeps the blower motor and the recirculating air door from operating until engine coolant is warm. Finally, the ATC sensor assembly has a new adjustment procedure. New replacement parts have a plastic pin that lines up the control arm with the arrow. This pin breaks off at the first movement of the temperature control lever. This is normal. Thereafter, to adjust the sensor, the control arm must be held manually to line up with the arrow. Moving to electrical, there's new, changed, and expanded applications of electronics for customer convenience.
Here's a change. When you press the keyless entry pad, only one door opens. That's normal this year. But press the 3-4 button within 5 seconds, the other doors will unlock.
Inside the Continental, The all-new message center has the control buttons and display panel together in one unit. And the microprocessor control module is part of that single unit. Next, this message center has an alarm with a flashing display and an intermittent tone. The visual alarm should display even with the key off. If battery power to the message center is interrupted, the display will read reset, reminding you to reset the clock. The self-test capability is selective. You can test specific functions without having to go through all the other self-tests. And the diagnostics in the book call these tests out for you. Next, there's an all-new fuel flow sensor for computing instantaneous and average fuel economy. The sensor is mounted in the fuel line, and fuel flow makes this little wheel spin. The tabs on the wheel interrupt a light beam to create an intermittent signal which the microprocessor uses to calculate fuel economy. The new Continental Electronic Instrument Cluster has the conventional and electronic sections combined in one unit. An important feature is that all three electronic units, fuel, speed, and temperature, have automatic service alert displays for opens, and the fuel and temperature gauges also test for shorts and display warning signals. Now here's a new onboard computer for other car lines, the TripMinder, available on Thunderbird XR7 and LTD Marquee. Its functions and displays are almost as versatile as the new message center on the Continental. Besides clock and fuel economy functions, it also provides a variety of trip information for a total of 7 digital readouts in English or metric units.
There are only 4 buttons across the bottom with 4 labels. The first 3 buttons each call up 2 different displays, depending upon whether they've been pressed once or twice. The 4th button calls up only 1 display. That gives you 7 readouts from 4 buttons. All of this is covered in detail in the 1982 Electrical and Climate Control book. If you haven't been into electronic instruments, I especially recommend this one to you. As for me, I'm going to study up on that AC stuff. Now, how about a quick self-test?
There are only a few body changes that affect service to any extent. Things like the new tailgate on Granada Cougar wagons and the swing-out panels on the Continental are obvious. But there are 2 things to note on the Continental. The trunk lid now has wedge keys at each end of the gas cylinder supports, and they must be pushed out to snap the cylinder ends off the hinge pins. Moving to the chassis, there are a number of new service features on cars and light trucks and on the Continental. You'll be seeing more of the new and different traction lock limited slip differential released midway during '81. It has no adjustments. If it's not working properly and cleaning won't fix it, it must be replaced.
There's a fine line there. Don't replace it just because of a slight chattering noise on tight turns after a long drive. That's normal. On the integral carrier axles, there's a new simpler method of calculating shim selection for differential side bearing preload and ring gear backlash. Check the body chassis book for the new method.
On light trucks, a caution to be aware of is that changing ratios on Dana axles may require changing the case as well as the ring and pinion gears. New tools for light trucks include Ford tools to service Dana axles.
And the new twin I-beam front axle requires a 3-piece tool set to service bushings.
Turning from trucks to the Continental chassis, you'll be interested to know that there's a new spring compressor tool for servicing front springs and lower control arms. Finally, the industry first, nitrogen gas pressurized front struts and rear shocks that provide immediate response and stabilized control.
It's normal for them to be extended in a free state. And it's normal to take up to 60 pounds to push the strut rod down into the cylinder. And when they're installed, it's normal for them to bounce more than you're used to.
During break-in, it's normal for struts to have a thin film of oil on the outer tube. But when the oil leaks down onto the lower control arm or pavement, that's not normal. But if they need replacement. You can replace just one strut or shock if that's all that's bad. One warning on this industry first. Do not attempt to open, weld, or heat a gas pressurized strut or shock. It could explode.
There's 2 books on body and chassis features, one for car and light truck, and the other for Lincoln Continental. There's a lot more information here than we've covered today. Now, how about a short self-test?
Because of the dense storage capability of this new video disc technology, we have room for some miscellaneous items that are worthy of your attention. Each is a silent, still frame. You may look at each as long as you like, then press step forward to move on to the next item. Now, I'll stop talking, and you're on your own.
Are you still here? Well, if you are, thanks for watching. If you like these old service discs and you want to see more of these, let me know. If you hate them, well, let me know that too. Thanks for watching.